Oh, jittery. Howdy to everyone watching this post live stream being live, I suppose. Hope you're all doing very well. Usual stuff. If any of you are in need of any of my help whatsoever, by all means, check out the links in the description. They'll take you to my website where you can see all of the services I offer to help you with your goals, your dreams, everything you could possibly want. Katie's Etsy is also down there where you can see like personalized tarot readings and all that kind of stuff. Katie's YouTube channel is down below in the description, but it's also like in the title of this video. Apologies if you hear any banging for the moment. The kids are just going to bed. It's a bit of a late night tonight, which is also why this stream is starting just a touch later than usual. If any of you are interested in the Subliminal app, the one that I use personally, it's an incredible app. If you're on Apple, check the link in the description. You'll get a promo. It's like a promo code where you'll get 15% off the like monthly fee, which is obviously like really good. And if you're on Android, still currently working through it, but that should be all sorted very, very soon. So you'll also be able to get a promo code. Yours will be different because Android's Play Store has decided to do something different with how they do promotions and stuff, which is a bit of a pain, but you'll have something available. And for those of you wondering why I'm looking down right now, it's because I'm trying to do the thing where I post it on my story so that more people can join, and I'm really struggling to find the We Are Live photo that I use for live streams. So I will try and do that in and amongst everything else. So I'm going to get some comments. H says, Matt, howdy. How to let go of a particular moment while resenting. So letting go, you're holding the so letting go is more about letting go of the attachment, the as you say, resenting the feelings. You're anchoring something of yourself to that particular thing or things. You say you're resenting, so I'm assuming there's like a couple of events. Obviously I'm just gonna go with that for the moment, but the way that you let go is to just simply remember that they're in the past. What's done is done. You can revise it if you want to revise it, but the only problem that I find with revision, and this isn't necessarily me saying that revision is bad, because revision is incredible. You should definitely revise if you feel like it would work for you. The only problem that I find with revision is people will try to revise a scene and then be wondering, did it work? And then thinking about the scene and thinking about what come to mind and all this kind of stuff. So, if you are going to try revision, try to be consistent with the new story that you're supposedly revising it to and not like wondering if it worked. But revision's one way. I'm not even going to post it on my Instagram. I can't find the photo. So revision's one way. Another way is to just simply stop harboring the attachment to it. I know it's like sounds like a just stop, which is obviously one of the things you guys are struggling that you're particularly struggling with. But it is a case of that. You are allowing your thoughts to go back to this point, or allowing your current emotions, feelings, thoughts, all that lot to be dictated by that situation. Just let it go. Just simply say to yourself, I'm allowing this to be part of my past, and this is no longer going to affect me moving forward. Actually just enact letting it go, because there is no magic formula. It's like, yes, you can do little techniques and stuff. Obviously you can, whenever you think about it, you can breathe through it, or you can remind yourself that it's in the past or whatever, but it's letting something go. It's no longer letting it take over your life. You can accept that it's happened, you can revise it, but you do just need to let go of what has come up. And I am not wrong in expecting an apology. Living in the end versus living from the end. Okay, as a whole, a lot of different topics here. Oh, by the way, Am says, hey, howdy, Am. Sorry, I kind of jumped over to answer H's question. So, no, you're not in the wrong for expecting an apology. If you want an apology, you want an apology. And I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong. The only thing that I do say to people when they say that they want an apology is, if you want an apology, let's say, for example, right now, you've punched me in the face, and I want you to apologize to me for punching me in the face. Perfectly justified in doing so. But the only thing is if I'm holding what you did against you until I get the apology, our relationship is never going to go anywhere. Our friendship is never going to surpass that, needing of apology, because you're by holding the need for that apology into play, you're also holding into play the fact that things aren't great right now. If it's an apology that you need before you can look past the resentment or look past anything, then all you're saying is, right now I'm in a shitty situation. And if you need the apology to happen, obviously it must first come from within. You must first forgive before you are given something to forgive. I'm going to have to go let the cat out. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, you must first forgive before you're giving something to forgive, you know? So it's like, no, you're not in the wrong to expect an apology, but just try to not let it be the main focus. Remember, the end result is the main focus. And for you to have your end result, you must have kind of worked it out in some capacity. And living in the end versus living from the end, they're the same thing. Um, essentially, you know, are you like, well, I suppose living in the end would be the only differences that I could think of them that they would be different is because of the wording of them. Living in the end is I'm going to operate right now as if I'm already in that future, and living from the end is thinking of your current present situations as if you're in the end result. I personally don't think living in the end and living from the end are anything different. Um, if you were to say thinking in the end and thinking of the end, those I would consider different, but I don't think living in and living from are two different things. Sorry, I don't think they're two different things. I'm gonna mute myself for a sec. Sorry, it sounds like there's a bit of a riot up there, so I had to mute myself just to make sure that, you know, you guys didn't hear too much stomping around on the floor. Um, KAB17 says, "Yo, howdy, howdy." Top FJS says, "Hi, howdy, howdy." Just before we go a little bit further into the stream, actually, apologies if my answers aren't particularly all that great. I didn't sleep particularly well the day before yesterday. Had to get up really early, and I did literally an entire day of business stuff on a different business project, not the something else I'm working on. And then went to bed at like 2, got up at like 7, and then it's just been an absolute hassle all day. So I'm a bit mentally fried. So apologies if I'm not maybe presenting the way that you guys would want. Top SJS says, "Can you talk about not identifying with thoughts?" So by talk about, I'm assuming you mean like how it works and how to do it. So we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness we place on our thoughts. So, you know, let's say for example, your think of your thoughts kind of like someone in the corner of your eye. You know, you can see them there. You know, you're aware of them doing there. But are you going to turn your head and look at them, or are you just going to continue doing what you're doing and just allow them to exist until they bugger off doing their own thing? That's essentially what I mean by you don't identify with them. If I'm looking here and I see someone in there, yes, I'm aware that they exist, but I'm not giving them my focus. I'm not identifying my focus with them. I'm just continue looking forward and they're over there. That's essentially the same thing with not identifying with thoughts. You can still notice that you're having bad thoughts, but if you notice that you're having a bad thought and start thinking, shit, I need to get rid of this thought, you know, like what if this manifests? Why am I doing this? I'm going to start spiraling, yada, yada, yada. That's you identifying with that thought. Whereas if you have a negative thought that comes up and you kind of just think, so what? That's not going to happen. Not fast. Or you don't even give it any of that kind of attention whatsoever. You simply just go, oh, I'm thinking something negative, but oh, well, it doesn't matter to me. That's not identifying with it. You're not your thoughts. You are the awareness you place on them. And it's literally, this is why meditation is really good because it helps you become aware of your thoughts so much so that you don't feel powerless to them or you feel like they control you. Because if you, when you're practicing meditation, you learn to kind of redirect your focus back to where you want it to be or allowing thoughts to come up and pass as they go. You'll kind of train that ability to just let thoughts come and go. And then when you do have negative ones as you're going through your day, they won't be particularly tackling for you. H says, how to believe in myself and my own revision when I am revising something traumatic, such as a breakup and left abandoned. Okay, so I never really fully understand what people mean when they say, how do I believe in myself? Um, I'm assuming that you mean, how do you believe that the revision is going to work? I'm assuming that's what you mean more so because you don't need to believe in yourself in order for the revision to work. You don't need to believe any of this in order for it to work. None of us ever knew about, well, sorry, not ever. None of us knew of manifestation before we knew of manifestation, and yet everything was still a manifestation. Therefore, we did not need to believe the things that we were thinking were creating. We just needed to continue to persist in thinking those things. So when it comes to revision, I'm assuming you mean, how do I believe in myself that it will work? And by that point, you don't even need to do that. Just literally, just every time you want to revise, show up to the revision. Really feel into it as if it's true, as if that's actually the core memory and not the traumatic thing, and continue to persist in that. And anytime that you have an opposing thought, like during the day or whatever, just redirect it back to the revised story. There's nothing necessarily to believe in. It's the case of just keep showing up and keep trying and keep going at it until you have changed the story. Um, I think too many people make it too difficult for themselves by thinking that they need to, you know, believe and yes, have faith, like have faith that what you're doing is working, but having faith that what you're doing is working, it could literally be shown in the sign of continuing to do it until it's changed. If you've got faith, then you continue to go back. You know, if you really didn't believe it would work, you wouldn't keep trying. So even to that extent, your question is obviously kind of answered by itself. If you keep trying it, you're already proving that you kind of believe it, or at least kind of proving that you have faith in it. KAB says, do I have to do self-concept to manifest an SP? Uh, I feel good about my SP, but I'm just going down again because I'm worried about my self-concept. You don't need to do self-concept in order to manifest a specific person. It does definitely help, like, because if you're doing, like, let's say, for example, you're focusing all your effort on a specific person and none of it on self-concept, and you feel kind of shit in yourself, when they come back, are you going to continue to be affirming like 24/7 to keep them in? Probably not. And therefore, your kind of more natural assumptions and your natural insecurities and stuff will start to come back into play, and you'll probably end up losing them again if you don't have a built up self concept. It's not to say that that is guaranteed to happen. It's just that is kind of a pattern that happens quite a lot. Hot and cold behavior is very much in a similar vein to this. So you don't have to do self concept, but it would be definitely worth keeping on top of the things that make you feel a little bit low within yourself, or make you feel like you're not worthy of them, or they're just going to leave, or they're just going to all this, that, and the other. But no, you don't have to do self concept, but it is recommended. Ashley Lewis says, what to do if you feel like conscious manifestation is not working? Like, I've been affirming and I get little to no results. Stop looking for the results is the first thing that I'd say based on that, because it's meant to be something that you already have now. And if you've already got it, which is why you're obviously making those statements of, I already have this thing, you wouldn't then be looking for the results. Too many times people say, I've been affirming. And it's like, great. What have you been doing the rest of the time? Looking for results, looking for signs, watching YouTube videos on how to get it better, talking to all my friends about how it's not going well, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, your affirmations are still just thoughts. So if you're doing 100 affirmations throughout a day, but then doing 200 negative thoughts, or like looking for results, or being aware and over associating with the idea that it's not here yet, then obviously you're counteracting it already. So when you say what to do if you feel like conscious manifestation isn't working, stop feeling like it's the first thing. Start trusting in the process. Start assuming that everything that you're doing is working, and stop looking for results. Stay true to the end result, and looking for results and wondering why it's not here yet. None of that's true to the end result. Oh, it skipped. Oh, I got to put on live chat. Oh, I always forget this. See if there's anyone I missed. No, I don't think it is. AM says, I feel like something is off with my energy recently. I can't meet any guys at all, no dates at all, no matches. It's never happened before. I've been wanting a relationship, but I feel like something is off because of how insanely impossible it is to have the chance to meet someone. How can I manifest a new boyfriend under this weird situation? Start changing the perception that you have. I mean, I understand where you're going. I'm actually going for a very similar thing in terms of like feeling like just a constant weird energy. Having a lot of, and I tend to keep on top of my own thoughts a hell of a lot lately. But stop associating with that. It's like every time that you say, well, there are no matches, there are no men around, you can't meet any guys. Every time you even state that you're in a weird energy, you're kind of just keeping yourself in it. So if you want to break free from this weird energy, you need to internally start breaking free. You need to start having this different perception of the situation that you're having. Obviously, yes, you may feel a little bit silly or delusional to begin with, but it starts within you, first within, so without, sort of thing. So if you want all of that to change, start working out what you would like it to be instead. So I'm assuming, matches, dates, men giving you the attention, all that kind of stuff. And then start telling yourself that that's already happening, and just being proud of yourself, like within yourself, knowing you're worthy, knowing that you deserve that, knowing that any person that you come across is going to be looking at you in such an amazing light. FS Toy says, how to deal with fear when manifesting a specific person, fear about they might go with another. Okay, so that would stem from your self-concept more often than not. Like fears in any regard, even whether it's manifestation or not, fears stem from I don't think I'm strong enough to overcome this. For example, I'm scared of roller coasters. I know this isn't a manifestation thing. Scared of roller coasters. The reason I'm scared of roller coasters, I have no control. If that roller coaster breaks, I more than likely die. So it's like, but I'm not scared of the dark because there's nothing to be scared of in the dark. There's nothing threatening in there. I'm scared of crickets. That's because if I was to have a one-on-one fight with a cricket, it'd fuck me up. I know it would. So it's like fear usually stems from a lack of trust within yourself. I don't have the trust that I'd survive the roller coaster. I don't have the trust that I'd be able to one-on-one a cricket. So that usually stems from a fear in yourself, which stems from self-concept. So if you're scared that they're going to leave you, they're going to find someone else, that's because you have this perception about yourself that you are not enough for them to want to come back to in the first place. You're fearing them moving on, But in actuality, what it means is you're viewing yourself as not enough for them to want to stick around for. So how do you deal with that? You start working on yourself. You start working on the way that you perceive yourself. Start working on the way they perceive you as well. Start saying to yourself that they perceive you as the best thing they've ever had, and they perceive you as a godsend or something like that. And then start working on yourself so that you're valuable, you're attractive and kind and funny and all of these things that you perceive that they would want in someone, so that they'll start perceiving you that way. um but it ultimately boils down to you. Obviously, I know I just said there that you'd want to start seeing yourself the way that you want them to see you, but ultimately start seeing yourself the way that you want to be seen, and that will be what happens. Change the perception of you and the perception of them. But the fear stems from your lack of trust in yourself. Top FJS says, I was overwhelmed by negative thoughts and did not identify with them, and I felt better. I just don't know if I'm doing it right. Have you been not identifying with thoughts and had a better overall mental space? Okay, so if you said you're overwhelmed by negative thoughts, did not identify it, and then that you've been feeling better. So to me personally, if someone was to say that to me, well, obviously you have just said that to me, but to me personally, that's a good sign that you're doing it right. Negative thoughts may usually make us feel shitty. So if you're not identifying in it as a result, you're feeling better. To me, that's a good thing. So that's what I'd say what you'd be doing right. And you also said, have you not been identifying with thoughts and had a better overall mental space? Yeah, because you allow them to bring yourself down if you over identify with them. You allow them to dictate the state that you're in, and as a result that dictates the way that you feel, the way that you perceive things, the way that your actions are, and then that as a result obviously dictates how things play out for you in your external as well. So yeah, I mean, at the moment, like I said, I'm struggling a little bit with it, but that's just because I've had a whole lot to do. And I feel like everybody in here would also agree that when you're really, really busy, and like tired and stressed out and stuff, it's a lot harder to keep on top of your thoughts. So I'm just kind of adjusting to my new life now, I suppose. But I'm definitely keeping on top of it quite well. So yeah, I don't know if that question, 'cause she said, have you been not identifying with thoughts at a better overhead of mental space? I don't know if that's in reference to what I said a second ago, where I said that at the moment I'm having to keep and check my own thoughts, whether that was just a general question, but hopefully that answers it. Matt Schwartz says, howdy, Matthew. Howdy, howdy. Glad to have you here, Matt. Beatrice says, since we can create our own reality, what's your opinion on tarot? My opinion on tarot is, and I know I did a video on tarot a while ago, and that video I might take down just because my views on them have slightly changed since that video. I still think that tarot as a whole is not your concern. I think tarot picks up on your current perception, because obviously we know this world is a reflection of we know the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. So if a tarot reader sort of picks up on these things, it's a reflection of, they claim it's current energies. Whether or not it's current or past, I don't know, just purely because like some things don't manifest instantly. So it's the idea that every tarot reading sort of supposedly is based on your present energy, when even the universe doesn't make things happen immediately every single time, is one of the things that I sort of struggle to get my own head around. But I definitely feel that to an extent they pick up on, um, no, I definitely feel that they pick up on your energy. Whether or not it's current or past, who knows? But I think tarot readings are definitely good to use as a reference. So if they say something that's negative, doesn't mean that it has to stay that way, but it kind of might show you where you've been in mentally, and as a result you can change it. So people that go to tarot readings and then go, oh, they said I can't get my person back, that means I can't get my person back, that's incorrect, and you should never be thinking about it like that. But if you go to a tarot reading and they say you're not going to get your person back, then you go, all right, I clearly have this story that I might not get my person back, now it's time to shift it. So that's my opinion on tarot, is that they're just reflecting our inner world. Like I said, whether it's our past or present inner world, I personally don't know, because I don't do tarot readings. Most of them claim that it's your present energy, but who knows? But yeah, that's my opinion on it. Submarine says, hey Matt, what do you think about the law of expectation? I think it is definitely something, I think it's very valid. Obviously, I did a video on it not too long ago. I've been holding out on making a video on stuff like the law of expectation and all that kind of stuff, just because, oh, I mentioned it in my last couple of streams. If I go anything outside of the law of assumption, I start getting people screaming at me saying, that's not true, law of assumption. That's not what Neville said. That's not this. That's not that. And it just, whatever. But I just decided I'm going to start doing it the way that I want to do it anyway. So I did a video on the law of expectation the other day, and I think it's a very valid thing. If you're expecting of something, that must mean your subconscious mind takes that in to give you something to be expectant of. Similar to what I said to H earlier. I don't know if you were in a stream at the time, but similar, like I said to H, he wants an apology, or they want an apology. They want an apology But in order to receive the apology, they must first impress their internal with something to be apologized for. They must feel the inner forgiveness in order to be given something to be forgiving for. I think the wording of that made sense. And it's the same sort of thing here. It's just like if you're expectant of something, this must mean that something must happen in order for you to be expectant, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think the law of expectation is great. Jordan Strang says, howdy, howdy. Glad to see you on live tonight. Howdy, howdy. Glad to have you here. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make this one tonight, just because, like I said earlier, I'm a little bit mentally frazzled, and the last like couple of hours have not been the best. So I've kind of just like had to make sure that I show up for you guys. But I definitely will be turning this off and then just going and laying in bed and just crying deeply. Nah, I'm massively into Dragon Ball Super at the moment. I know it's been out for so long, but I never used to be a Dragon Ball fan. After Super finished, my friends like introduced me to the film, the Broly film, for anyone that knows it, the newest Broly film. And since then, I've like kind of seen clips of Dragon Ball Super, and I know about the Tournament of Power, and I was just like, you know what, I'm actually just gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the Tournament of Power and actually enjoy it. I know everything that happens. I know how it ends. I know all of like the Goku Black stuff from the previous arc and all that lot, but I thought I'm just gonna watch it anyway, just because it'll be fun. So I'm currently engrossed in Dragon Ball Super at the moment. So that's probably what I'm gonna do as soon as I finish this live. FS Toy says, if the situation is, she said, I don't love you anymore or don't feel love when we are together, what is the affirmation that I should affirm? So obviously, if you haven't already, go back and watch my most recent video where I give you the way that you can create or using my formula to create a perfect affirmation. Obviously, you can make your own from there. But the stuff that they said, I don't love you, I don't feel love, blah blah blah, none of that is what you should be concerned about. You should be concerned about what you actually want. So I'm assuming you want the relationship, you want to be like back with them and all like happy lovey. Actually, you didn't specify whether or not you broke up, but I'm assuming you want to be in this loving, passionate relationship. So that's what I would affirm for if it was me. So I'd say something like, I'm so grateful to be in the most loving, passionate, committed relationship with person. You can add a little bit at the end to say in a way that benefits everyone, but that's entirely up to you. But yeah, I would state, I am in this relationship, or I am deeply loved and admired and adored by person. It all depends on what your end result is. You didn't really specify what your end result is. You should just said, what is the affirmation that I should affirm? So there's a couple. There's one about them changing their like love for you. The other one is about, being in this relationship. But if you haven't already, go watch my most recent video. That'll give you more of a step-by-step breakdown on how I create my affirmations. Top FJ says, and will negative. Oh, sorry, that was continuation of your other thing. Have you not identified with? Okay, so you also say, and will negative thoughts from the past and bad memories stop coming after I not identify? So yes and no. So it's one of those things that a lot of the time your thoughts and feelings are dictated by the state that you're in. If you are poor, you 99% of the time will have a lot more poor thoughts than someone who is rich. So the state that you're in, the way that you operate, this persona you take on, will dictate the thoughts. So by not identifying with them doesn't necessarily mean that they won't keep coming up. If you don't identify with them and then enter a better state or enter a state where they wouldn't really come up all that much, you won't get them as much. But if you stay in the same state, for example, and then stop identifying with them, you're probably just going to stay sort of where you are, because it's more obviously our thoughts are what like create our thoughts and sort of our thoughts are what when we identify with them put us into a XYZ state. But if you don't shift the state that you're in, you're probably just going to get the same results as you always were. But it will definitely lessen, because if you aren't identifying with them, you'll be creating less negative, which means you'll be seeing less negative, and as a result, having less negative to react to, and kind of not having to fight those kind of thoughts. Because if you're not seeing any negative externally, you probably won't be worrying about it as much. So to be fair, in short, then yeah, probably they will probably stop coming up as much. The act of not identifying with them alone won't stop them coming up as much, but the knock-on effect of not identifying with them will have the effect of you not having them as much. Sorry if I'm rambling a bit. I'm not doing very well today. AM says, thank you, Matt. You're very welcome. JA says, I see opposite results with my SP at times, and I feel like I'm wasting my time. Also, my SP moved out of state, which brings in fear of not being able to manifest. How do I get rid of this? If I have an unhealthy obsession with an SP, should I let him go and focus only on self-concept, or continue doing both? Okay, so I see opposite results of my SP and I feel like I'm wasting my time. Also, my SP moves out of state, which brings in a fear of not being able to manifest. How do I get rid of this? So I'm assuming you mean how do you get rid of the fear? Um, the fear obviously comes from, again, like I said earlier, a lack of sort of self-trust. You feel like you're not going to be able to manifest because you even say it. I know you don't specify whether it was you or just the fear, but yeah, so it'll come in a lack of self-trust. So this trust of not being able to manifest. I'm assuming there'll be that element of maybe not being good enough for them to want to come back. You also say if I have an unhealthy attachment, which means you see this person, you perceive this person to be way above who you are, or like way above you in the grand scheme of things. So how you get rid of this is to work on yourself, like the self concept work. You don't necessarily have to remove SP entirely. You can do both, but start working on yourself, start trusting yourself, start perceiving yourself to be someone that, a great manifester, someone they would want to be with, like someone who is worthy and deserving of all the love and everything that's making you have that unhealthy attachment. I think removing the unhealthy attachment will help you with the rest because you're so unhealthily attached. Well, you say if I have, so I don't know if you're saying you actually do, but if you have an unhealthy attachment, that's probably why you are perceiving it as impossible to manifest, especially if they've moved away, because you're seeing all the odds stacked against you because you have the unhealthy attachment based on your perception of them compared to you. So start working on yourself so that you can be more on level or above them, because then it will be a lot easier for you to just step back and let it happen. Just step back and go, well, I know it's going to work because everything works out for me because I'm all these amazing things. So getting rid of any kind of fear in any regard would be to start working on yourself and working on where this fear is stemming from and tackling it from there. Um, but as for I recommend mostly self-concept, especially if you have an unhealthy attachment. If you're kind of like level and you kind of see yourself as really worthy and stuff like that, then yeah, you can focus on more self a specific person. But if you, like you described there, have an unhealthy obsession with them, I would recommend mostly self-concept. Marianne says, "Hey Matt, hope you're well. I have a question. What's a type of sign of movement for you?" So I don't actually really identify with signs much. It's not my end result, so I don't particularly care. But I think for me, a sign that if I was to, would be drinking for dramatic effect. What would I even care about if I was to see a sign of it? Probably other people talking about it, if it was me, because it's like I don't know. People are like, "Oh, I saw their name everywhere." If it's like a specific person, I saw their name everywhere, and it's like, but you're saying their name a whole bunch, so it's like being impressing your submind with their name isn't really all that impressive. But if you hear other people talking about kind of like the same sort of situation, it may not be like with your specific person, but if you hear other people talking about them getting married or whatever, and you're been manifesting marriage, for me that would be the first sign, or like the only sign that I particularly care about. But or sorry, that I would see as like movement, which was what your question was more specifically. But in all honesty, if it's not your end result, then it doesn't really require much focus unless you're feeling like, oh, finally, this shows me I'm doing the right thing. By which point, obviously, whatever makes you feel good. But that's kind of where I'm at. Ashley Lewis says, "Do you agree with coaches that says manifestation should not take months or years?" This is a very interesting like thing because there's so many mixed opinions out there. Um, I don't think I don't think you can put a time limit on it. It's like one of those things. Like even in like I don't know. I haven't actually read much Neville, but like for example, Florence. I'm more of a Florence person than Neville. I never ever got into Neville. I tried him a little while ago. Florence stuff I really like, as you know from me referencing it in a lot of my recent videos. But even in Florence's books, you're like, oh, I gave this person like an affirmation to do, and they went away, and then it was like I didn't hear from them, but then a year later they said that it all went well, and it's like, okay, so within a year this person got like the marriage that they wanted, or within months this person got the house that they wanted and stuff. And this is obviously from one of the people, one of the greats that reference scripture and stuff. So I don't think you can really put a time limit on it. My experience is that a lot of things do happen reasonably quickly, and I have had a lot of my clients who really like commit to their new story, get their successes within a reasonable time scale. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't. Sorry, that doesn't mean that it can't ever take months or years. Um, I think yeah, that's my opinion on it. I've seen even in like Florence's book, she references that it takes like months and years on occasions. I've had things that have come after months. some of my clients have had things that have come after months, but I've also had a lot of my clients say they got stuff really quickly, and I've had stuff really quickly and stuff like that. So, and Florence's books say they got stuff really quickly. So I think the overarching thing is to say that there is no minimum, maximum sort of thing. It all depends on how long you're going to commit to the new story and like stay true to it until it comes in. Because, a year might not be that long to one person, but a year might be long to you, and you might not want to wait a year. So, but no, I don't think there's a time limit on it. Tambi says, while I'm manifesting my original SP, I thought of manifesting another SP, which I don't know about before. People say manifesting new SP is very fast, but I can't see anything in the 3D. Any advice? So the only reason why people say that manifesting a new SP is very fast is because often there's not an opposing story. It's a lot easier to just sort of tell yourself, I'm in a loving relationship and staying open to the 7 billion people on this planet. But saying, it's a lot harder for people to get it into their head that that one person, their ex, can come back to them because of all this story. They refer to the old story. They say it can't happen because of this and X, Y, Z. So that's why people say that it can happen very fast. I do agree. I do genuinely think that from a logical sort of human reaction, emotion, and thought process kind of standpoint, a new person is easier. To the universe or to God, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, everything is the exact same. But you say you can't see anything in a 3D. Any advice? I don't know how long you've been doing it for. If you've been doing it for like 2 days, then I'd say probably, I wouldn't worry about it. It's probably on its way. But if you haven't seen anything in the 3D and then asking for any advice, I would say to just let it come. You're more than likely being outcome dependent because you're staying open to a new SP and you're already assuming that it's not working because other people say it happens fast and you can't see anything. So I would say just relax, take that step back and stop looking for it and continue to persist in having this new specific person. And stop looking for the results, because when you're looking for the results, you're also saying that you don't currently have results, which is why you have to look for the results, which is impressing your subconscious mind that we don't have results. So that would be my recommendation. Holly says, thanks for your advice on tarot. I've been wondering, I've been tempted to click on them on here, but luckily it's been saying positive stuff like he's missing me and a reconciliation is coming soon. It don't depend on, I don't depend on it, but it does raise my vibrations. So yeah, basically, it's good that you're getting positive stuff for sure. And I obviously, like I said, I don't personally do the tarot readings. I was just giving you my perspective of it. But if it makes you feel good and it makes you feel like he's on his way, obviously, as I'm going to go and have a look for it so I don't, as Summer Rain said earlier or asked about earlier, the law of expectation. If you've got a good thing and you're going to stay true to, he's definitely coming, I'm expecting it, then great. Summer Rain says, so would I say we are getting back together? Is that okay? Now, I still do think that you should mentally be telling yourself that you are already with them, but mentally preparing for, I know this is going to sound like a complete contradiction. I actually had this question in one of my most recent videos as well about like the law of expectancy and stuff. So I still think that to impress your subconscious mind with the story to happen the way that you want it to happen, you should be saying that you are with them. But I think you should be expecting it to happen because you're telling yourself that you are with them, if that makes sense. Sort of like in a way, the way that like people look into the 3D to accept it so they're not like running away from it, but that's not where they more dominantly reside. I think if your main focus is I will be with them, you'll be forever will be, if that makes sense. But if you are more dominantly in the state of I am with them, and then on occasion start saying, I know it's going to happen because I've been doing this work, then that's obviously the expectation that's going to happen. And you're preparing for it. So I don't know what your preparation would look like, but it could be, looking at venues for your wedding and stuff like that and saying, because we're together, this is where we're going to get married, and all these kinds of preparations and expectations. But I do think the affirmation itself of we are getting back together. Oh no, actually, sorry, I read your affirmation wrong. Are getting back together could imply that it's happening right now. I read it as will be. I don't know why I read it as will be, but yeah, I think that affirmation is fine. We are getting back together.
That's like in the process.
Yeah, it's like in the process. Yeah, I think the affirmation is fine. And you can either ignore everything else I just said because I read it wrong, or sort of take it on board. It's up to you. But I did actually get this question the other day because I posted a video on the, dig your ditches because of like the preparation for water to fill. If you haven't seen it, go watch the video. And then I also posted a short about not being outcome dependent. And someone asked me, how can you be preparing without being outcome dependent? And it was a good question, very valid question. And I when I say outcome dependent, I mean just sort of being like chill to whatever's happening, and it'll happen when it happens, or if it doesn't, you know that you'll be fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't prepare for it. It's kind of like if I was walking home and I was expecting there to be dinner at home and there wasn't, like Katie hadn't cooked or whatever, it's not a meltdown. It's not the end of the world. It's not like, oh my God, it's not working. It's just like, cool, I'll just go and cook something or whatever, or order something. Like you can expect something without it being the end all be all if you don't get it. And it's that kind of thing where it's like you should be expecting and preparing, but if you don't get it, you shouldn't be attached to that outcome. You shouldn't be like, oh my God, I didn't get that text by New Year's. That means they don't want me. Manifestation doesn't work. This, yada, 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 yada. You should be like, oh, I didn't get it, but that's chill because I know that I will next week, or I know that I will the week after. That's the outcome independency that you should be removing. So hopefully that worked. No, outcome independency that you should have. I'm not doing very well in this live today. I do apologize, people.
A little bit jumbled.
I can't even find where I was because it skipped. Oh yeah, cool. Marianne says, my SP texted me and it felt like nothing has happened, but it wasn't about our feelings or anything. Okay. Texted me like nothing has happened, but it wasn't about our feelings or anything. So what's wrong with that? Like, I'm not saying that there is anything wrong or there isn't anything wrong. I'm confused. I'm curious as to where your standpoint is on that. Hannah C says, what if he blocked me because he's with 3P? The third party is not your focus. You should be thinking the way that you would if you are already in the relationship that you wanted, and in that relationship you wouldn't have a third party. So the third party is not your concern. Completely remove them from your attention. The what if he blocked me is just a circumstance. The fact that you're blocked because there's a third party means nothing. In your mind, you should be together, having the lovely life that you want together, not worrying about whether or not you've been blocked, because the more that you worry about about you've been blocked, the more you're going to receive of the blocking. So the what if he blocked me because of an 3P, that whole statement is irrelevant. Not saying that your question is relevant, but like the circumstance there is irrelevant. Are you with your person in your mind? If yes, great, it'll happen as long as you persist in it. If no, flip anything that isn't in line with it to what it is that you want. Muscan says, is setting intentions in magic same as manifestation? How can I use magic for manifestation? I'll be honest, I am not a magic person. Never really looked into it. I'm assuming based on like what I know of like techniques and stuff, you could just regard them as techniques to an extent. But magic and me are not. I literally operate under the your thoughts create, and that's basically it. Which I'm assuming magic is just setting an intention with a thought as some form of technique. So,
in order for any kind of magic to work, you have to genuinely believe that it will work. Therefore, I would say that magic itself is pretty much manifestation with like additional steps. I think it can definitely be used. It can definitely, you can, bring in more power than you have just from your own thoughts, sort of thing. So yeah, basically one of the most important thing in magic is genuinely having trust in yourself and knowing that what you have done is the correct thing and that it will bring in exactly what you want, sort of thing. So yeah, I'd say setting intentions and doing it that sort of way. What was the other part of the question?
It was just, how can I use magic for manifestation?
So I use what do I use? So I use things that help sort of cleanse and focus me. So like cleansing baths and stuff like that. I like money spells. I think that they work perfectly. They work really well. Little tiny like money jars and things. I have used a sort of travel kind of protection type spell. And as you all may know, I quite often have don't anymore, but did have car problems and stuff like that. And since I have that and it like is in my car, not had any sort of problems since. So I think there's lots and lots that you can do. I think that you should have a look at like many different books and stuff. I don't generally say that like a lot of the stuff online is super helpful because they don't sort of describe the way that you should be like in the state that you should be in and stuff like that. So like, for example, you'll see on TikTok, like, oh, look at this cute little spell I did, sort of thing. But unless you sort of read up on the, like moon phases and like the state that you should be in, and like the reason why each ingredient is going in and stuff like that. You don't really know what it is that you're putting into it, so you can't really get the full sort of outcome. But yeah, a little bit of magic. I think it's great, and I don't think it hurts anyone, and I think that if you assign like exactly what you want to it, it will do its thing for you.
Yeah. Top FJS says, I think I worded that wrong. As I said, I was overwhelmed, like they were racing in my mind. Now I'm more calm after not identifying with them and they're not showing up as much. I was over identifying with almost every single one and arguing with them. Will I be more at peace? Okay, then yeah, I definitely say so. If you're not identifying with them, if you're not identifying them now, you're calm. Then yeah, they're not showing up as much. Then yeah, you will be more at peace. You said you're over identifying. The thing with thoughts and stuff is like everything changes the second that you change your thought process. Yes, you may still get stuff coming like up, like you may change like now, but I may still get something happening tomorrow that's negative based on thoughts before. But the second that you start to change where your thoughts are coming from and what you're identifying with and stuff, the more the second you'll be changing future events. So if you will be more at peace once you stop identifying with negatives or once you start identifying with positives. RM says, how to stop negative thoughts that you don't want to manifest, but they stay inside you. So you can't really stop them. This is kind of the thing that we sort of said with Top FJS. Your best bet is handling them better. Like, yes, you can reduce them by sort of not being in the state that causes negative thoughts. Going back to the example that I used earlier, being if you are rich, you're going to have a lot less thoughts about being poor than if you were poor. So if you want to have like reduce the amount of negative thoughts that you have, try to adjust the state that you're in. Try to be sort of proactive with thinking the right things and identifying yourself with those. Because when you are in a better state, you will have a lot less negative thoughts. The reason why I say that I don't think you can like actually just stop negative thoughts, unless you mean stop them as in like stop them in the moment. But like if you mean overall, I don't think you can ever just stop them fully, because as humans, we do tend to prepare for the worst. So you could be the richest person on the earth and you're still probably going to have the odd thought here and there about, oh, what if I lost it all? What if like the tax man come and took everything? What if I like my wife divorced me and I lost half of my assets and stuff? And it's like you might still have the odd thought here and there. So I don't think you can ever just stop them fully, but you can definitely reduce them by being in a different state, in a better state. As for stopping them in the moment, some ways that you can do it is obviously not identifying with them and just shifting your focus onto something else as positive, and that'll obviously sort of nullify them. Another thing is focusing on your breath. Once you sort of focus on each breath as they come, you're anchoring yourself to the present moment and having something to focus on. That can usually help quell thoughts in the moment. Hopefully that helped. Tammy Town says, hi, howdy. Kiachi says, hey Matt, finally I'm feeling detached from the need to manifest my SP, and I feel really great as many people are reflecting on my self-concepts and really good people are reaching out to me, and I'm enjoying the treatment I'm getting these days. That's really good. I'm really happy to hear that, because obviously over the past couple of streams you've referenced like a bit of fear about stuff and some concerns and everything. So I'm glad to hear that for sure. Jade Lamb says, people are conforming to my self-concept. I believe my SP is on his way to conform. How to keep faith and persist? Sometimes I question it, but able to pull myself back. So if other people are conforming and your specific person aren't, one thing to look into is, are you perceiving your SP to be the kind of person that would conform to these thoughts? For example, if you're having thoughts about how amazing you are and everyone's reflecting how amazing you are, but you have these sort of underlining thoughts that your SP just doesn't see you that way, could that be something that might be holding you back? Because if everyone else is conforming and not your SP, doesn't mean he's not going to conform. Maybe he will, but it might be something that you've been holding in your mind that's keeping him from being that way. You might have this perception of him that he's just not that kind of person to treat you like that, or he doesn't perceive you like that. And obviously you've got to align thoughts with each other. If you don't have much opposing story to like your friends seeing you as a certain way, then it'll be easier for just self-concept work to make them see you that way. But if I work on self-concept but still see my person as hating me, then it's probably not going to have the best of results. So just have a little look-see to see if you are aligning them. And as for keeping faith and persisting, well, if you know that other people are treating you that way, then it's only a matter of time before he does, assuming that you're persisting in the correct way. If it works for someone, it's going to work for everyone, as long as you're making it work for everyone. If that makes sense. And that's how you can keep your faith, because you can see it working right in front of you. Jordan Strang says, I found out that one of my uni friends has gotten back with her ex the other day, and I believe that I have a part to play in it. I manifested their reconciliation, and I'm using the same technique on her as I'm using on mine, and her success is a definite sign for me. That's a really good. That's obviously what I was talking about a second ago when I was asked about like my perception of signs, and like what I see it as movement, and that would be what I would consider movement. So great job. Top FJ says, I feel like the saying your thoughts create throws people off by making them trying to control every single little thought. Yes, it does. But the thing is, it's very difficult to have any kind of like statement that works for everyone. Like you can't create something that isn't going to throw someone off. Because there's so many different channels that talk about so many different things as well. That's also another element. If it was all like, if it was just one channel on YouTube and they were saying your thoughts create, then people would probably abide by that. But in terms of um, all these different people saying your thoughts create, and some people say that it's every thought, some people say that it's only the thoughts you assign with, some people say that it's not every thought. It's a mess. But I do agree, it does throw people off. It definitely threw me off when I first understood where things were at. Dev says, hey Matthew, I went to a tarot card even though I don't believe in it, but just to see my mental state, I asked the reader if I will ever get with my person. The reader said, yeah, but not in the near future, probably later. So now I'm questioning myself, lol, but I'm telling myself I have her now. Fuck the reader. So the reader also says she only sees dates, not marriage. And so I said, fix that, no worries. I mean, that's definitely the right mindset to have about it, is if you do get a reading that you don't like, is to just see it as like at worst, obviously where you're at currently, and then just switch that. Don't let the reader take power over your thoughts. Don't give your power away to the reader. Sorry, but no, I'm glad you're not spiraling. Jade Lamb says also happy Lunar New Year. Wish you all a full year of joy, love, and prosperity. Thank you very much. You too. Submarine says just makes it easier for my brain to take by saying we are getting back together because we are really difficult to impress, if you get me. I do, and like I said, we are getting back together is fine. Well, what I was saying is that we will be get back together. It wouldn't be, like, in my opinion, the best thing. But that's just because a lot of people say we will get back together, which is probably why my head immediately went to that's what you said. But yeah, that should be fine because we are implies that it's happening like now, like you're in the process. So yeah. Marianne says, I feel like it was a sign of movement, us texting, because it's a step forward, but at the same time, it wasn't anything deep. It was just a normal convo. Well, if your end result is being together, then a normal convo is probably more natural than a complete spilling of feelings. It's very rare Kate and I spill feelings over text. Like, we might say like I love you in the morning, like when we go to work or whatever, but it's very, very rare that either one of us is like, here, let's have an emotional spillage over text. So if anything, you can kind of see it as more normal that you're speaking like that to be in line with your end result and kind of focus on it like that. Summarine says witchcraft is manifestation, definitely. Well, anything that gets you thinking and believing something will be some form of manifestation, just with a fancy name. Phantom Geek says, finally catch y'all. I've missed you too. How are you guys? Very good, thanks. How are you? How are you, Katie?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
John West says, nice, just tuned in. Good to see you, Matt and Katie. Good to see you too. Phantom Geek says, weeks of deprivation. Hate that I've been catching up for 1 or 2 lives, then trying to figure myself out and what to ask. Then I miss you guys for weeks and keep the cycle. Well, you're here now, so ask away, kind sir. We have about 10 minutes before I
change that assumption of yours.
Yeah, exactly. You always show up to live streams.
You're always here. You're already prepared with your questions.
Yeah. You have about 10 minutes to ask questions before I start heading off. Angela says, I'm having a hard time with my self-concept and ignoring the 3D and trying to manifest my ex with a third party. I love her so much, so just the mere fact she's not around anymore fills me with negative thoughts. Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense. Like I said earlier, a lot of the stuff when it comes to, no, I didn't say this actually, it was something that I kind of was thinking when I was saying it. When it comes to losing someone, a lot of the time you can feel like you're not good enough in a lot of senses, especially if they move on to someone else. So in order to, oh, you actually did say that you were having a hard time with self-concept and ignoring the 3D. Okay, so what I was going to recommend you're already doing anyway. So you have to ignore it. This is one thing as well that I think sort of similar to what Top FJ has said with your thoughts create. Another thing as well is when people say to ignore the reality or not ignore the 3D, sorry, you don't need to ignore it. And I think ignoring it can actually be kind of depriving. I don't know what the word is. Detrimental, that's the one. Because you're kind of like burying it. But like, in order for you to ignore something, you must acknowledge that it's there in the first place for you to ignore it, which means you are actually acknowledging it and focusing on it, but you're squashing it. You're pushing it away so that you don't have to accept it or you don't have to deal with it. When people say like ignore the 3D, I think it should be changed to see past the 3D or like accept the 3D or see it for what it is or something. So saying to yourself, like, I'm struggling right now because my person is with someone else, saying it once just to kind of get those feelings out so that you're not bottling up. But then that allows you to kind of look forward and do your techniques more calmly because you're not bottling anything. That's definitely going to be a lot better than trying to bury it and then having it explode up at another time. So I would say try to accept the 3D or see the 3D for what it is, but knowing that it can change, knowing that, a manifestation is a thing, you can make it work, knowing that your thoughts, like dwelling on the correct thoughts is all that matters. Like when you have negative thoughts, just simply swapping them to the positive, because negative thoughts can be ignored. Negative thoughts can be, or not ignored, negative thoughts can be not associated with. Negative thoughts can be flipped as well. Some thoughts will be harder to flip than others, especially if you're really feeling into it. But negative thoughts can be flipped. So it starts with that. You may not be able to control what comes up, but you can definitely control how it ends. And it starts with that. And then it starts with like ending it in the positives with you and end it in the positives with the relationship. Um, in my opinion, because you said, I love her so much, which kind of from the way that I perceive it, shows that you've kind of outcome dependent. It's hard to work on self-concept and ignore the 3D while manifesting your ex who has a third party. So based on those things, I would say if there's anything that you can yourself remove so that you're not being presented with the 3D as much, definitely remove them. So if you still got them as you're on your close friends list on Facebook or something, and then you're seeing all the lovely photos that they have with the third party, I would say maybe mute their account or don't go on Facebook for a bit or something, just so that you're not being presented with it all the time. Because the less you have to react to, the less you'll be reacting, which means the less negative you'll be seeing and experiencing and recreating. And then it'll be a lot easier to make the positives go forward, because the third party should never be on your mind. The third party should never be anything that you ever pay any attention to, because in your desired reality, would there be a third party? No, you'd be with your relationship. Therefore, start acting now as if you were already living in that by taking your attention away from the third party and placing it onto the reality of you two being together. And like I said, it starts with thoughts. You may not be able to control what comes up, but you can definitely control what finishes. And if you finish every negative thought with a positive and then try to, have conscious thoughts that are positive, you'll be slowly sort of tipping the balance to be more in line with the positive, which will make everything a lot easier. But definitely removing some of that outcome dependency would be a very big thing. Kiati says, I'm currently manifesting another SP that they are interested in me, but they are scared of long distance. How can I turn this around in my favor? So the long distance would only be a circumstance. So the way that you turn it around in your favor is to just stay dwelling in the story where you two are already together, regardless of distance. You don't even have to imply the distance is a thing in this situation. Just you and him in this relationship or dating or whatever your end result is in this moment, and dwell in that. Don't let any circumstance in the middle be a thing. Fandom Geek says, have notifications on, but I still happen to be busy and whatnot. Lol, glad to finally catch you two. Well, I'm glad you're here too, but like I said, we'll be going soon, so might not be here for too long. Juhi, apologies if I said that wrong. I usually work for long hours, due to which I don't get much time to repeat my affirmations. And while focusing on work, my mind tends to wander the most. How do I stop this? Well, if your mind's managing to wander, then you still have the capability to control it. Even if you're like typing away at like a computer or something, for example, and you're having thoughts about something negative, that also means that you have the brain capacity available to think about something positive. So instead of trying to stop it, why not work with it? And like when you notice you're thinking of something negative, flip it to be something positive, or be proactive. So instead of letting your mind wander to the negative, before it starts to wander to the negative, start thinking about the positive and let your mind just kind of have a snowball effect with all the positive things that you can have instead. And yeah, because if your mind's going to wander anyway, you might as well let it wander in the best way.
And then every time that you've noticed, it's kind of like, because what normally happens when you start like just daydreaming is you choose a topic and you go on then brain, off you go, and it's like, oh lovely, and it like pictures all these beautiful scenes, and then like as it goes along it kind of like, I don't know, something in your imagination comes in and it's like, oh, now we're going this way with that. And every time you notice it going this way, just give it a different reminder of like, oh, remember when she said I love you or whatever it is, and then let your brain carry on again. And then yeah, whenever you just sort of like I tend to notice it kind of like visually. So I'm actually like, for example, if I'm like daydreaming properly and like visualizing things, and something will happen, like a car will drive past in my dream, and then that will take me off on a tangent. So just like see if you can notice something like along those lines that starts the next like kind of imagery, and then every time you see it you can change it back. I don't know if that's just my head that does that.
I don't know. FS Joyce. Oh, by the way, if we could all stop the comments for now, please, just so I can finish the live stream and then start heading off. FS Toy says, I've been affirming for my ex for 2 months. We are in contact, but the conversation is not good. She sees me like a friend. So should I go no contact with her or on contact but persist and affirm? So you can do either. It depends what's easiest for you in that situation. Some people might, oh, you also said, because sometimes I feel tried and not see the future that I want. Yeah, I'm assuming you meant tired. So whether you do or don't go no contact is up to you entirely. If it was me and I was not getting the reaction that I wanted and it was becoming an issue for me, I definitely would go no contact, but that's just me. But it's changing the perception that you have of her. You said her, right? Yeah, she. So it'd be changing the perception that you have of her. So instead of like, you can obviously be doing your affirmations about being in this lovely, amazing relationship, but if you still perceive her to be perceiving you as such as like just like a friend, it's going to be very difficult for you to align those two thoughts and have just the one reality. You'll probably have situations where she's really flirty sometimes, and then other times when she's really friendly, or have this hot and cold behavior because both things are kind of clashing because you're not aligning them. So if you're affirming, I would affirm to be in the end result that you do want, as well as working on changing the way that you perceive her. So instead of seeing you as a friend, she could see you as an amazing lover or a great partner or something, and just change that so that they align, and then you can create that for yourself.
I was just going to add something to that. Quite often, when like people are in a relationship, they tend to be each other's kind of like best friends as well. So if it is like a very like friendshipy kind of conversation, you could tell yourself that yes, it's like, you know, friendships, because obviously we're really close with one another because we are together and we are in a relationship and everything like that. So I think that the actual conversation itself, you can perceive, especially with text, like text messages and stuff, you can perceive the tone however you want. That's why quite often, if you're having like a chat over text, one person will think the other person's angry, and that like that person will actually be like in a really happy mood, because unless there's sort of like emojis or like some kind of animation going along with it, you can't read somebody's tone over text really. So yes, it might seem like a very friendly relationship, but for all you know, from her side, she's very much flirting with you, but you're just reading it as a friendship kind of message. So yeah, if you didn't want to cut contact and go no contact, then that is an option to sort of tell yourself that yes, we are chatting because we are together and she's actually super flirty, you know?
Yeah. Fandom Geek says, since it's like my first one back in a while and I'm still getting my footing low, what are your thoughts on the 10K repetitions going around the community? I mean, repetition is needed. Like I've made this sort of, I've spoken about this briefly in the past. I don't think, I don't know whether 10K is the exact number. I don't know if they meant 10K all in one day, like 10K a day, or, you know, I haven't watched any of the stuff. I've heard a lot of people say, like, you know, the 10K challenge, the 10K this, 10K that. Repetition is needed, regardless of whether you do the embodying the state, visualization, affirmations. It doesn't matter. Repetition is needed. You can't expect to shift a story if there's an extremely opposing one. If it's something really small and stupid, like your shop restocking a certain kind of drink that you really like to get, it's probably quite easy to just have a couple of thoughts and then have that change. But if you're really trying to change stories that are really embedded in your subconscious mind, you've really had there for a while, or they're based there through trauma of like a breakup or something, 10K, the 10K thing is definitely important. Whether or not 10K is the actual amount, I don't know, but severe repetition, or at least dominant repetition, is definitely required. I'm pretty well. I don't know if it started with Sammy, but I know Sammy definitely brought it to light. So, I mean, you don't have a channel that big without it sort of having some credibility behind what they say. Marianne says, yeah, it will make things normal on my part and on his. Thank you, Matt. You're very welcome. Anuva says, hey, oh, don't miss someone. I feel like I missed someone. Oh no, I guess I didn't. Don't know why I thought that. Anuva says, "Hey, just wondering if you have any tips on how to detach." Okay, so detaching, one thing that really works well for me for attaching or detaching, sorry, is realizing how unvaluable that thing is. I know it sounds really bad, but if you've got this specific person that you think is a godsend, how like actually genuinely sit there and think about the amount of people on this planet that are just as the same as them or can provide just as much, if not more value to them, to you than them. If there's a job, same thing. If I don't get this job, there's so many other jobs paying just as much, just as like home working or whatever it is that you want. Because when something there's more of something available, it becomes less valuable. So it's like if I have um four rocks and they're all £2.50 each, and they're the only four rocks on this planet. If I destroy one, now there's only three, which means their value has to go back up, has to go up, and they end up going at like 33.3 each because of sorry, 3.33 each to be making up the 10. So it's like if you perceive something to be one and only, it's going to be more valuable and therefore going to be more difficult for you to detach. When you realize that there are so many people out there that are probably just as good, or there's so many other jobs that are out there that are just as good, or whatever it is that you're going for, it's a, oh, did you say specific? Oh no, you just said any tips on how to detach. Then it's a lot easier to detach because you're realizing that it's not actually that special. That's the way that I like to do it. Another way that you can detach from SP is to figure out why you're so attached to. You didn't even state SP. I'm just going to use SP as the example, but I know you didn't specify SP. To detach from an SP is to work out what it is that you are attached to. So why do you feel like this person is so important that you need to attach them? What is it they provide you, or why is it you feel they provide you if they give it to you, or if you get them? And then start giving it to yourself. So if it's like the idea of validation, for example, you finally have someone there that can say, yes, your hair looks nice today, just as an example. Start doing it to yourself. And the more that you start to provide yourself the things that you're attached to the other thing for, the more that you'll realize you actually don't need that thing, because everything stems from within in the first place. So if you're overly attached to something else, if you need something else in your life in order to be able to live effectively, you're giving yourself away to that other thing instead of, providing yourself it first. So those are the two ways that you can work on detaching.
Listen to Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
All that.
No, but that's actually quite a good one. Like if you are struggling with being alone or something like that at the moment, that is actually a very good one of like hyping yourself up. It's like, yeah, I can do everything for me. It's like the words are kind of just like cliche. I can buy myself flowers, hold my own hand, all of that kind of stuff. But it is a nice reminder. It's one of those songs that's actually quite a good reminder, I think, for people that actually, yes, you can give yourself things. You can like pull yourself up. You can compliment yourself. You can make yourself feel good. And yeah, I think it's a nice song. And if you watch the music video, she does some really like strange dancing to it, but do that too. It'll just make you feel great. Just biggie.
So if Katie's not in the next live stream, you know that she's bought herself flowers and fucked off somewhere.
And wrote my name in the sand.
And wrote her name in the sand.
Yeah. Spoke to myself for hours.
Marianne says, and the convo was basically him needing me. Yeah, it'll make normal things on my part. And here's the thing. So it wasn't about feelings, you said earlier, but it was about him needing you. So in my opinion, that's good. Like that was a good text. You should enjoy that. AJ says, is it okay to date other people whilst I manifest my SP, just to make sure that I don't get excessively attached to my SP? Yes, if you feel like you're getting excessively attached, well, obviously I would first work on your internal self so that you're not becoming attached to someone else, because you don't want to accidentally become attached to the other people that you're dating. But yeah, you can date others if you want to. A lot of people that I've worked with have had success when they started dating other people. All of a sudden, person one ended up wanting to treat him the right way. So you can obviously do it at your own sort of discretion. I'm not going to sit here and say you must date other people while manifesting an SP and then you coming back and going, oh, I did it and it went wrong. So if you want to do it, you can do it, but it works. Nina says, just want to say hi, Matt and Katie. Howdy, Nina. Glad to have you here. Angelant says, I know you said remove them. How would I do that if we work together and they always bring they'd always bring 3P to work. So those kind of situations are obviously a lot harder. So that makes lots of sense why it might be a bit difficult to remove them. What I would do if I was you is to just look past it as best you can. Just remind yourself that it's not forever, that you create your reality. Kind of do the things to build yourself up. You create your reality. You could even start to tell yourself something like, every time you don't want to necessarily do it a lot because you don't want to focus on the third party too much. But if you're feeling particularly down on a day when they bring them in, you can sort of like look at them and be like, oh, they're nothing compared to me. Look, I'm so much better for my SP and so on and so forth. And you can kind of like build yourself up that perspective. But yeah, it is definitely a lot harder in that situation. And I would say just see it for what it is as they come in. But oh, you know, people that don't want to see it is what it is. I'm going to go toilet. I'm going to go make a coffee. I'm going to go do whatever, and then just kind of remove yourself from the situation if you can. Hey, you're beautiful says last comment. Fandom Geek says, glad to at least see y'all. I'll catch you guys next week, possibly low. I have rehearsals for that play I told you about ages ago. Oh, good luck. Hopefully you do really well. Hopefully you get the lead role, and then I'll come and watch in person. Sit in the back row. Sarah says, he said he wants this person. Then I said I want a best friend. He asked me out again, and I know I didn't come off as interested. Then he ghosted me, got a girlfriend a month later. Now he is engaged to 3P. How can I change it even though I was living in the end for months and saw that? I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, so so Sarah said he said he wants his person. Then I said I want a best friend. He then asked me out again, and I know I didn't come off as interested. Then he ghosted me, got a girlfriend a month later. Now he's engaged to third party. How can I change it even though I was living in the end for months and then saw that? I'm really confused. Sorry, I don't.
He said he wants his person. So his person, do you mean the third party? So he said, I want my third party. But then you say I said, I want a best friend. Or did he ask you out?
Yeah, because then she says, he asked me out.
And so he asked me out again.
And I know I didn't come off as interested. Then he ghosted me, got a girlfriend a month later. Now he is engaged. And then she also says, how can I change it even though I was living in the end for months and saw that? I'm sorry, I really don't understand the timeline because you said that you wanted a best friend and then he asked you out and then you said basically no.
So I think that what happened is you weren't quite ready. I'm just making an assumption here, I might be wrong. So you weren't quite ready for the relationship. So you said no, but then within a month is where you changed your mind and started living from the end of you guys being together. But in that month, he then found someone different. Is that?
In all fairness, Sarah, that I don't understand the timeline. But anyway, we'll go back to like we can still answer the question. Yeah. So you say, how can I change it even though I was living in the end for months and then saw that? So that's obviously old story of something that's played out. Whether or not you were still creating it, like I said, I don't fully understand the timeline of your story, which makes it more difficult for me to say what part of you needed to adjust at that time to make this happen. But from here, because like I said earlier, I think it was when I was talking to, oh no, I don't remember who it was I was saying it to, but when, like I said earlier, the second that you change your thoughts, oh yeah, it was Top FJS. The second you change your thoughts, you're creating a new reality. So if you are, yes, this may have happened. How this happened, we don't know. Obviously, like I said, timeline's difficult. But from now, if you stop acknowledging the 3P, stop acknowledging their relationship and anything that doesn't align with your new story, and then continue to persist in your new story of being in this relationship, being in like whatever it is that you want. I'm assuming obviously relationship. And continue to or best friend, because you said best friend. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the timeline stuff. But the third part, anything that you do from now is going to be creating your future. Right now, your current 3D will become your future. No, your current 4D will become your future's 3D. So from this second, make that change that you will be thinking different thoughts. You will be disassociating with their situation and just change it from now, and it will eventually flip to be in your favor. FS Toys says, thank you. Your advice is value for me. I'm very glad it is, because today I've not been very good at giving value, that's for sure. And then also say, sorry for my English. I'm from Thailand. No, it's absolutely fine. We can understand what you're saying. So that's all good. Jade Lamb says, I have a general pick a card reading after a couple of months. The result is better than I expected. It's like a checkup to see where my energy is at, but I'm not going to dwell in vids after vids though. Yeah, it's definitely best not to, regardless of anything. Obviously, you guys can dwell on my videos, watch them all the way through, click the like button, and that really helps me out. But it's better to just do the work than to learn like constantly. Obviously, you got to learn to an extent, but it's once you kind of get the general gist of it, it's better to apply it and learn what works best for you and how to do it more effectively for yourself, or go to a coach and actually have someone work with you directly on your situation instead of consuming constant content from loads of different like readers or coaches or whatever, because then it's like Yeah, because some coaches, for example, like we said, someone asked earlier, some coaches say about um, if it's months and years and it doesn't work, and that obviously is going to be confusing to some people that believe. And then when other coaches say, or whether it's months or years, it doesn't matter, it's confusing, and then people get all jumbled up. So just pick something that resonates with you and stick it out with them. If you really need to go deeper, maybe work with that coach more specifically. Doesn't have to be me, obviously. You go to whoever you want, but I think constant consumption can be quite a difficult thing to move past. Beatrice says, I'm aware that circumstances don't matter, but how can you look past the situation, the circumstances while manifesting, since me and my SP live in different countries? So, okay, so this is I get where you're coming from, because like, I mean, you're having a very logical thought process about it. You literally say, I'm aware that circumstances don't matter, but how can you look past the circumstances? Well, if you know they don't matter, then you don't need to look past them. You just need to dwell in the end. But yeah, so let's start with that. Dwelling in the end. Your end result is where your focus should be lying. You should be, regardless of whether you're seeing a distance, you're seeing a third party, you're seeing a meteor on its way, and you've only got 10 minutes to see him. You should not be focusing on what's in your way. You should be focusing on the obstacles. As it says over and over again in scripture, God makes a way when there isn't a way, and give unto God and he gives to you and stuff like that. No, I don't even know if that was actually a scripture quote. I made that one up. But you should be, everything in scripture says you should be focusing on the end result, essentially. That's not in those words, but you know what I mean? You should be focused on the end result and giving everything else to God, because and in scripture they refer to God, but it can be your subconscious mind, the universe, law, whatever the law, you know what I mean. But in everything in scripture that obviously Florence delves from, and a lot of other people delve from, none of it says the middle is your concern. None of it says you need to be dwelling in the end, but make sure you think correctly about the middle. It says, do the end result and cast your burden to God, or do your end result and God makes way when there isn't a way, all this kind of stuff. So even though you say, I'm aware that circumstances don't matter, but how can you look past them? You're still saying that they matter. In order for you to look at them, you're saying that they are something that is a consideration. It's like, yeah. So you should be focusing on your end result and only your end result and dwelling in that, because if you focus on just your end result and impress your subconscious mind with it, you realize you're thinking about circumstances, you start to flip it onto just the end result of being with your person, regardless of distance, just being with your person. You're going to impress your subconscious mind with that. And you don't need to focus on the middle to impress the subconscious mind. You don't need to logically understand the middle to impress the subconscious mind. You just need to give your subconscious mind the right story, and the middle will fall apart in its own way. So accepting the circumstance and seeing it for what it is, like, yes, there's some distance between us, whatever, it doesn't matter, because I'm with my person in my mind. That's all that you really need to do. There isn't really anything that you have to do to stop the circumstance. You don't have to be like, oh, here's this technique to handle the circumstance. Just dwell in the end, basically. Marianne says, thank you, Matt. I hope you both sleep well tonight. Thank you very much. You too. Sarah says, thank you. Sorry for the confusion. Within a year of us going out, he ghosted, got a girlfriend, then got engaged to third party. I want to change it because I'm in love with him, but he has no clue. Can I change it at all? Even if we haven't been in contact for a year? I was meditating, living from the end for months, doing a scene of us getting engaged on a beach. And what blew my mind is he got engaged to third party on that same beach a year later. I was devastated, so opposite, confused to what I did wrong. Okay, so now that makes a lot more sense. So it's very difficult to say what you did wrong when obviously I only know the good stuff that you've done. You sort of say, I was doing the meditating, I was living in the end and stuff. And I hear this quite a lot. And then when I coach people and delve deeper, they're like, oh yeah, but every Monday to Sunday, I was doing really bad from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then obviously it's like, you kind of find out a bit more. Okay, so in order for this to have created, this is an old story. Whether or not it's an old story from before this period that's played out, or whether it's during this period that's played out. Maybe, for example, you were doing the scenes of you getting engaged to him on the beach, but while simultaneously you were thinking about how they're still in this relationship, and can he come back to me? Can he break up with her and come back to me, and all this kind of stuff. And as a result, the mixed story ended up happening, and it merged, and they got the engagement that you wanted because you were associating him with her and associating him getting married on that beach or engaged on that beach. Whether or not that's actually what happened, I don't know for sure. I wasn't in your brain, and I'm obviously not your subconscious mind. But that's just an example of potentially what could have happened. But like I said, if your thoughts from now are in line with your end result, and you're not letting anything seep in that is negative or of the undesired story, whether it's him with a third party, whether it's you not with him, anything negative at all, And as long as you change that from now, you will create the future that you want going forward. As long as you identify with the thoughts and feel into them as though they're true right now with what you do want, you will be changing that story. It's very difficult for me to answer the confused to what I did wrong kind of questions, because obviously I wasn't in your head. I wasn't there 24/7 to keep an eye on your thoughts for you. So it's very difficult for me, based on just like a live stream question, to say what you were doing wrong. But I can tell you what you can do right, and that is to ensure that you are not letting anything of the negative or of the old story seep into your mind, and only associating with the positive. I mean, for example, you said even if we haven't been in contact for a year, uh, what blew my mind, he got engaged on this. So you said that you weren't in contact for a year, but then also said that he got engaged. So this kind of makes me wonder, like, how did you know that he got engaged? Were you looking at profiles, or did you get told, or how did you see it? And this isn't to say that you were going out stalking or anything, but if you were able to see it to some capacity, then maybe there was other things that you were seeing along the way that kind of got into your head. I weren't there, so I don't know, but that's a potential for what happened. But like I said, if you flip that from now and only let what you want to happen seep in, you will only experience what you want to happen in the future. Your current 4D will eventually become your 3D. Do you do one-on-one coaching? I do indeed. The website is linked in the description. Check it out if you're interested when this goes live, or I can just post it here quick.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, if you could just put my thing, because I got one more question and I have some questions on an email to answer. And then Kumo says, "As Sarah, I have a trick that worked. Look at pictures of your SP with the 3P and replace the 3P with yourself. This will be a little hard at first, so what I suggest is to be continued." So what I suggest is, and then to be continued. Cool. While they're doing that, I'm just going to get out these questions that I said I would answer for someone. And
I feel like we need to update our photos on the website.
yeah, they're from literally like when I first made the website. There's a whole lot I got to do. Having your own business is actually tricky.
Oh,
Ooh.
I don't know. You might be able to see it. Can you see it? Look at that. Look at us.
Where are the questions, Matthew? Find the questions. Okay, cool. I've got them.
Link.
Okay. Sarah says, "Thank you, guys. You're very welcome." Katie is going to put the link in the website if you are interested in working with me. But I have some questions from someone who wasn't able to make it to the stream today, so I'm just going to answer them quickly now before we head off. So they asked, does the subconscious mind get impressed by listening to affirmations tape? Can I listen to them while working? Yes, absolutely. More often than not, when you're listening to something, you will start to begin to think of it, or it will just hear it and like take it in and be impressed with it. So yes, absolutely. And you can listen to them while you're working. I listen to subliminals while I'm working, just because if I hear a voice, I do find it more difficult to concentrate on like the coaching emails I do. But subliminals and affirmations tapes and stuff absolutely do work while you're working, and you can impress your subconscious mind with them. They also said, I've started to do affirmations while exercising. Will this impress my subconscious mind, even though I may not feel the emotions at times? Yes, even robotic affirmations can still manifest. I have said in the past that I do think it's better if you're going to do the time to be affirming, to feel into it, but that doesn't mean robotic affirmations don't work. And do you have any advice for people who are employed on how to affirm for money? Does it have to be linked to their salary, or can we affirm random deposits of money? I would advise going to the end result of the amount of money you want to receive and be open to the outcome. Too many times we expect it to only be able to come from one place because currently that's what we're experiencing. Remember, our desired version doesn't experience the same stuff that we do. So even though I may tell myself, which I do, I receive X amount of money due to coaching clients, that's limiting myself to only coaching clients, which the version of me who's received that kind of money might have received it through a gift, or they might have received it from the subliminal app that I promote. The money from that might have picked up a big amount, or hopefully my dad dies and I get the will, that kind of stuff. So it can come from anywhere. But yeah, so it doesn't have to be particularly to where your salary is coming from. It could be anything, as long as you stay open to anything. Then you also say, what affirmations can you suggest for manifesting winning the lottery? I would advise saying something like, I am so happy and grateful to have won the insert lottery, because there's loads of different ones that you could insert. I'm so happy and grateful to have won X amount of money from the lottery, or to have won the jackpot on this lottery. Just something that implies that you've won that lottery ticket, jackpot. I don't know. I don't do lottery, so I don't really know what the terms are for it. And how can you affirm and attract money when you have to live on a budget? So what I did for mine, I didn't go above I worked out my budget initially. So let's say that my bills were 1,800 and I earned $2,000. I worked out my budget, knew that I would have more than enough to spare with the amount that I was actually earning. Then I didn't increase my stuff, but I increased what my budget claimed I was earning. So every time I saw my budget, I saw that I was earning 2,400 instead. And I knew every month that I was safe as long as I didn't piss around with the money, because I'd already worked out that what I was actually earning covered the money. And then from there, started to pretend to be earning more than what I was actually earning. And that's kind of how I did it. That's not obviously affirmation, but that's just something that I did do. And then I started to affirm that I was earning that amount of money. I was starting to affirm that I was earning, well, I literally just said, I'm just repeating the same sentence. I started to affirm that I was earning that amount of money. And every time I looked at my budget, it showed that I was earning that amount of money. And I never had to actually worry about going over my budget or that I was being delusional, because my money would still be enough to cover it. So that's kind of how I went about affirming while I was living on a budget. So I really hope that helped.
I was just going to say, I think one really good thing to do is always be confident, because if you are like into budgeting and you know how much you have and how much you're going to spend here and blah blah blah, whilst you're like walking around the shop, just remind yourself that you'll definitely always have enough money for this sort of thing, because you've already planned for it. You already know that it's there. So like, how people are like, oh, let me just check my account before I pay just in case, sort of thing. Like, don't do those kind of things. You already know that you've budgeted it in. You already know that the money is in there. And always tell yourself that you always have more than enough money to pay for things, because you know for a fact that you do. So that way you won't get in that habit of, oh, I need to check before I can pay. Oh, I need to check before I can book that thing, or whatever it is. You will just know that you have the money there.
Yeah. And these are the final ones that I'm going to answer, just because we are trying to head off, because it is getting quite late here now. FS Toy says, do you think about people can change nights and day? Is people change from unlove to love? I'm not entirely sure what that means, but people can like begin to love you again. I'm not entirely sure what the question is meant to be saying. Do you think about people can change nights and day? Is people change from unloved to love again? Sorry, I don't fully understand what the question is, but if it's like, do you think that people can change from unloving you to loving you again? Yes, absolutely. Everything is a reflection of what you place inward. So it will express out there, and some bridge of incidents will get you there. So yes, absolutely. Fandom Geek says, let's stop the questions. Lol, here we are. And then also says, thank you for your time and devotion to us. You are very welcome. Okay, so thank you everyone for showing up for this live stream. Apologies at the beginning of it, the answers were a little bit all over the place. I am very frazzled. But I hope you all enjoyed it nonetheless. And I will catch you.
From the kids
Oh no, I muted it at one point. But yeah, so I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.